The following is an excerpt from a longer conversation between my son, Ben Wagner, and me on May 10th, 2020. Enjoy.
I really do have optimism in terms of an influx of new businesses starting up. Um, I still think we're in a little bit of a stasis still, even
Yeah.
though parts of the country are opening up, parts of the world are still opening up. I feel like there's still so much uncertainty
Yeah, for sure.
and fear,
For sure.
and
A lot of the places that are opening up, at least the states, are reporting that nobody's coming out. You know, our restaurant is open, but we're not getting any business. Like nobody want, even though they can, they don't want to. They're still
right,
kind of concerned about it, So
right.
yeah, it's kind of
It is kind of a I think there was somebody said something. I think it was one of the channels. Maybe it was the Spartan Life Coach guy, Rich Grannon. Um, it might have been him that was talking about it because he's in the UK, and he said that there was BBC News or maybe there was a newspaper article or something that he talked about, and he was like saying that the writer was saying that we overdid it on the fear.
yeah,
We went
yeah,
a little too far on the fear, and now we can't get people out of their houses.
yeah. Well, I mean, I
And
don't,
it was an
and people don't
interesting.
even know if it's over. You know what I mean? Like there's still scientists going, you should not be opening up right now. I mean, the states that have opened up were on the rise. As a matter of fact, since they opened up, Georgia's COVID cases have jumped 40%, not because of that they opened up. I mean, you're not going to see the effect of that for another 2 weeks, right? But it was
Right,
already on the rise when they opened. So a lot of
right.
doctors are like, oh, these guys just fucked themselves over. So who knows? I mean,
Yeah,
one thing about
there's
that's cool
honestly
about
there
this.
seems like there's both sides. There's so many like different opinions. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I'm reading this article right now. I think I might send it to you. It's really fucking long, but I have often found really good articles in the Atlantic that are
Hmm.
balanced and complete and well written and on different topics, sometimes controversial, and they cover both sides and really well and stuff like that. And this one is about why it is so fucking confusing, this COVID thing, and it's really good. I'm halfway through it, and I'm like, oh man, Ben's got to read this. This is really good. Just because one of the things, I'll just tell you one of these things that was like, oh, I never
Cool.
thought
And
about
then I'll
that.
tell you why I think it is.
Okay. um, Basically, they said the normal scientific uh, path is that scientists do these studies, they publish the articles, they send them to, or they don't publish them, they write the articles, write the papers, and they send them to scientific journals, and then they are often there's like a panel on the journal that will maybe make a critique of it, send it back, and say, fix this up, and maybe we'll publish it. And so there's already kind of a filtering going on, right? A correcting. And then they publish it. If they do publish it, then there's a whole bunch of other scientists that are working on the same thing. They go, no, that's, you fucked up this study, and this is not, or they critique it in some way, right? A whole bunch of scientists will critique it or try to duplicate it, and then they publish their papers and their critiques of it. And then over time, like over a period of time, months, year even, um, there slowly becomes a kind of consensus among the scientific community as they work these things out and critique each other, and you know basically debating, only they're doing it with studies and stuff. Um, but they eventually come to some general consensus. Usually that's the normal path. What they're doing now, though, is because this situation is so fucking urgent, a lot of them are going direct to the public. Like they got a Twitter feed, and they're publishing what they're finding without going through any of that. And a lot of them are, not good studies. That is the case. A lot of researchers don't do good enough studies, or they're flawed in some way. but they're publishing it directly, and then people are grabbing that and then writing about it in regular regular news outlets that is going direct to the public. So basically the public is now involved in that whole process of slowly coming to a consensus, but having a lot of argument about it. The whole public is doing that now. And normally we're not involved. We don't really get involved until it's already gone through that. Right. So that's part of why it's confusing, because it's normally confused. Basically what they're saying is the normal process of the scientific gaining a consensus scientifically is confusing. I mean, not confusing, but it's conflicting. There's a lot of conflicting stuff, and it eventually it works itself out, and there gets a consensus. But the public is now involved in the whole thing, and it's just like, yeah, and we're not used to that process. Right, we're not familiar with that process.
Well, we're not smart enough either. Like we're not smart enough to fucking deal with all that shit. That's why the scientists are doing it. That's why it's called peer reviewed, not public reviewed.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that was one thing they said. I was like, yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but because it's urgent, everybody's just putting it out there.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things that has, 2
You don't
months
want to wait
from now
6
is a little
months.
long to wait.
Yeah.
I would highly, I don't know if I would say highly recommend you watch the whole podcast, but Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan recently.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, I haven't seen the video, but I saw that
I think it's 2 hours long, and I would say the first 45 minutes to an hour is him talking about his Neuralink stuff.
I don't know what that is.
That is something that he is working on in terms of basically creating a Neuralink is an actual computer that would be installed in your skull with electrical wires connected to neurons.
Yeah, I saw something about this once.
Yeah.
Elon Musk was, and some of his scientists were trying to explain what they were trying to do.
So he goes into great detail about what they're doing, and what they're hoping to accomplish with it.
And it would add processing power to your own brain, right? Ideally.
Well, he said that, eventually, after many, many iterations, eventually it would almost be like a booster. It'd almost be like being able to kind of like fire your brain on all cylinders, so to speak. But initially what he's doing it for is to actually repair brain damage. So people that have had strokes, people that have had that have Alzheimer's, stuff like that, actually sending electrical impulses to those parts of the brain that have been damaged to reinvigorate them. And he was even going so far as to say, like, people that have lost their sight, bringing their sight back with it and doing all kinds of like very interesting things. Basically parts of the brain that have stopped functioning for whatever reason, old age, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or they got into a motor accident, or they, whatever. That this Neuralink, that what they're trying to develop is something that you could basically bring back functionality of those parts of the brain that have lost function.
Cool.
Sounds really crazy, right? Super interesting.
Yeah,
He's
it
like
sounds sci-fi-ish, but I've seen enough to think it's possible.
Well, I mean, he's literally explaining how they bore out a part of your skull and put it flush with your skull, but like in it, and then having certain parts of your brain connected to this like half-inch or 1-inch diameter little thing called a Neuralink. It's like a little processor.
The Matrix.
Cyborgs, man. Shit. It's some crazy shit. But I would say the last 20 or 30 minutes of the show, he's talking about his cars and the new stuff and the new truck and stuff that they're working on. But in between, I would say an hour in, and then for about a half an hour, Joe and him talk about the coronavirus. And it was interesting to hear him talk about it because he's come out publicly saying that we went too far, and that it was an overreaction, and he's gotten a lot of heat on Twitter about it. And I think he tweeted something a few days ago and just said "Free America Now" or something like that. People were just fucking hammering on him. But what he was saying, which I thought was interesting, and I would urge you to maybe just check out that half an hour if you want to listen to his perspective.
I will do that. I'm trying to make a note.
Because Joe Rogan asked him, he's like, "So how do we get out of this? Like, what's the way out of this?" And his answer was pretty simple. He's like, "We need to clean up the data. We need to.
It's an information problem.
It is, and he said the first thing we can do is we can clean up the data in terms of the mortality rate. So when people are saying, like you died with coronavirus, there needs to be some determining factors on that. It can't just be all lumped into one thing. There needs to be was the cause of death significantly impacted by corona, or did they simply die of something else and they had corona, first of all? So because that is something that is happening. It's not even a conspiracy. It's happening. There.
Well, sure, and absolutely.
And he explained
people have other things already.
Well, yeah, and Joe kind of put it this way. He was like, it's not like pneumonia took the fucking month off, like there's still people dying of pneumonia, but if they have COVID as well and they die, they're being labeled as a COVID death.
Yeah.
And so Elon Musk went into the financial reasoning for that, which is a lot of hospitals, because of these, and they also kind of describe the elective the elective surgeries and the elective procedures that were all kind of put on hold and rescheduled,
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, elective is kind of a interesting term to use because a lot of these things are also pretty serious. It's like, if you have like need a kidney transplant or
this one lady had breast cancer, and they considered that getting her breast removed an elective. And
right.
like,
so he was like, he was like, if you wait long enough, these elective things will kill you too.
Right.
So he's like saying that these elective things. So they kind of talk about that, and then he's like, and a lot of people are scared to go to the hospital for certain things. They're
absolutely.
sick, but they're not
COVID people
going to the hospital.
Yeah.
So now there's like, you got to go to the hospital, people. If you're feeling if there's something going on, you need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So there's that issue. So the other issue is the financial one, which is that hospitals, because of all of the lack of patients due to the electives being put on hold, they've had to furlough and basically close off, half of the hospital.
Yeah.
And so in some cases, hospitals are operating at like 30% capacity.
Yeah. And they had to lay off nurses and stuff.
Yeah, staff and stuff. So the hospitals themselves are in danger of going bankrupt.
Great.
And so there is a actual monetary incentive due to the CARE Act that Congress passed to actually label people as COVID and putting them on respirators. It gives them more money. And this is something that they desperately need right now because they're not generating enough to stay open. So he's like, that's a fucking problem.
So yeah. So probably the hospital directors are telling the doctors, well, if you're on the fence about putting somebody on a respirator, put them on a respirator.
That's happening.
It's possible. That's possible. That's entirely possible.
Right. It's entire. But I mean, public health officials have come out and openly said, if somebody is in a hospital and they die, even if it was like stage 4 cancer, but they had COVID, we are labeling it as a COVID death. They've come out and publicly said this.
Yeah.
So it's not like that's not happening.
Right.
How much it's happening, who knows? That's why he's like, we just need to clean up the data. Like if we can say this person had stage 4 cancer, but they also had coronavirus, we need to know that. We can't just say they died of corona. Like that's just not
right.
It's disingenuous.
That's part
of
the confusion. Yeah.
And it's confusing. And it's
making hard to make a good decision about things when it's like the data is all screwed up like that. How bad is it? Nobody knows. There's so many factors involved here that are making it confusing. Like that.
Yeah, and I think that I think that I think that's why that there's been such a ravaging uh, wildfire spread of conspiracy theories because of the confusion
Yeah, definitely.
and because of the sort of seemingly um, misrepresentation of facts.
Yeah. And also the perception that it's being misrepresented only because, I mean, there's some parts of it are not actually being misrepresented. It's only, it only seems that way because it keeps changing, you know, as new information comes in, because this is all being kind of, nobody's figured this out ahead of time. It's all being done
Right.
on the spot. Then they go, okay, don't wear any masks. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, wear
Right.
masks. And people are like,
Right.
what the fuck? You know,
It almost is like a misrepresentation, the misrepresentation of the information, um, whether it's on purpose or on accident. You
right.
know, that's also a defining.
Yeah.
It's like, oh well, we didn't know what we know now, so we're changing our recommendations.
Yeah.
Um, and Joe Rogan was kind of, he was like, yeah, and it's hard once you've kind of laid out these really like um, strong, you know, like the lockdown and once you put all of these, you know, uh, processes in place, coming back from it is a little bit of a challenge as well. Like
Yeah.
retracting the, like if all of a sudden they were like, okay, a new study found that like um, you know, it doesn't survive actually on surfaces. Like say they came out and they realized, okay, coronavirus, it only lasts like a couple seconds outside on a surface. You think
Yeah.
people are going to stop cleaning shit like
No,
fucking furiously?
no,
No.
no, no. Well, some will, but most people won't. They're like,
Right.
they're probably going to change their mind next week. So,
Just to
and
be safe,
meanwhile,
better
yeah,
safe than sorry,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, when you're dealing with, you know, you don't want your kids to get it, you don't want your grandmother to get it or whatever, you know, you're going to err on the safe side, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
you don't want to get it yourself. So, you know, one of the things that
Yeah.
when in reading all that stuff about conspiracy theories and theorists, they said that, you know, first of all, conspiracy theories are basically like rumors, and rumors spread most when the information is lacking. It's like the humans don't deal with a vacuum of information. They will fill it. Somebody will say, you know what I think, blah blah blah, and then that person
Right.
will, that's a pretty good theory, and they'll pass it on to somebody else, and pretty soon that's a fact, you know, as it spreads around, right? So in a position of lack of information, people will spread rumors. So that's one thing. And then the other conditions that tend to lead to conspiracy theorizing is levels of anxiety rising. They even found that people, you know, they will show them these conspiracy theories and say, do you believe this, or do you like, you know, and they'll give them like a conventional explanation. You say, which one of these do you like most? When they're in a doctor's office about to go in, so their anxiety level is just a little bit higher than normal, they are more likely to choose the conspiracy theory. They're more likely to think a conspiracy theory is true. So just level of anxiety alone can raise people's belief in conspiracy theories. And then another factor is when people feel powerless, they're more likely to believe in conspiracy theories. So we have all of that right now. Lack of information, higher anxiety level, and a feeling of powerlessness.
Yeah.
It's like
On
perfect
a
conditions for
level,
conspiracy
on a
theories.
global level that I don't know that we've really seen,
Yeah, I've never seen it.
at least in recent times.
Yeah, I've never seen it. It's
Um,
like, as a matter of fact, that's
there
why
might
I
have been
even got
something like
interested
this.
in them in the
Yeah.
first place, is because I saw that there was like a steep rise in conspiracy theories, and I'm like, this is an interesting topic. You know, I wonder if there's any books on it. You
Sure
know,
enough.
sure enough, there's whole people that have spent their whole life studying it, doing experiments on it, and finding out things about it. It's amazing. I had no idea. I never really thought they were anything important. What does that
Um,
sound?
it's a bird, I believe.
Really?
Yeah. I think. I'm not sure actually.
Almost sounds like an instrument or something.
Yeah, it's like a. I
Yeah.
think it's a bird.
Hmm.
But I was talking about. I was thinking about this because I the YouTube algorithms have been um, working double time on my YouTube profile lately. It's like every time I watch a video, there's 3 other suggested videos of similar topics now, and once you start going down those conspiracy theory holes, you get some crazy fucking suggestions. But one of the things that I found interesting is that, from what I can tell, there seems to be a lot of research and even certain aspects of psychology and science dedicated to understanding why people believe in conspiracy theories, like they, or into the like an analysis of what makes certain people susceptible to them, what makes people believe in them. And I find that there's actually and maybe it's got to be called something else, because I was thinking it's interesting to me that there isn't a lot of literature on why people don't believe in conspiracy theories. And what I mean by that is, when there is a theory that turns out to be true, even what it is about human psychology that makes you just not want to believe it.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there was a couple of the chapters in that book, Conspiracy Theories and the People Who Believe Them. It was people going in the other direction. Like most of them, and basically what they were saying is that the whole field of studying, especially in psychology, studying people that had conspiracy theories, they basically their original stance was that there's something wrong with these people, and these guys, a couple of the guys that wrote the chapters were like, but there have been lots of conspiracies, real conspiracies that eventually were exposed, and to automatically disregard or to even think, I think they called it, to pathologize conspiracy thinking is definitely a wrong approach. That there are good reasons to believe in conspiracies, because they do happen in real life, and to just automatically assume that somebody that is a conspiracy thinker is somehow wrong, or has something wrong with them, is completely false, is really a bad idea, because that's not the case. I mean, as a matter of fact, a lot of the conspiracies that have been exposed were from people that were kind of like outside the field, that had not already drank the Kool-Aid, that were looking at it from outside and going, this doesn't add up.
Right.
And
Well,
anyway,
or like the Julia Assange, the Snowdens,
right.
the whistleblowers, the people that are like, hey, this is what's going on, by the way.
Yeah, and
and
there were
and
people that were already saying that
right.
suspecting that was the case already.
But and I think that there is a certain percentage of people that still are like, I don't know, man. He seems like there's almost a conspiracy theory around those whistleblowers, like, to disprove them.
Yeah, for sure.
And even something as simple as the media. The media, I find it so difficult for people to believe that that whatever they hear from the media must be true. And I feel
Right.
like there's smaller and smaller percentages of people that believe that.
Yeah, for sure.
But there is still a pretty solid, I
Sizable
would say a pretty
percentage.
sizable percentage that say,
Yeah.
oh, well, CNN said it,
Yeah.
so it must be true, when they've been not truthful and caught not being truthful several times.
Yeah.
That sort of blind acceptance of
trust
of trust in something that has been in the past not trustworthy the continuing to not pay attention to that and just trust this certain media outlet or whatever, because it's interesting to see how there's such an apparent divide in people that watch Fox News and the people that watch MSNBC.
Mm-hmm.
There's almost like this like war of, oh, you watch Fox News and you're a fucking redneck Republican white trash idiot.
Right.
And if you and
you're a libtard if you watch MSNBC.
Yeah, there's such an interesting dynamic of assumptions of the viewership, and what those two, to me, it just speaks volumes as to the obvious narrative that just those two channels in general are trying to convey.
Yeah, they both have their own slant.
They
right
both have
left.
they both have a biased narrative, both of them.
No doubt about it.
And it's super.
And the people that is, Fox News fans think that it's not biased, and MSNBC fans think it's not biased.
Okay, that's our podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. You can find out about our other podcasts at theatombomb.org. This is Adam Lee Kahn on The Atom Bomb.